Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773's Broadway. This is a live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show, coming to you on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today, and what an honor it is to bring back a friend of the program and a guy that I'm very interested in talking to because of these unprecedented times that we live in. He's always been a resourceful character and has pushed the boundaries of the human experience, but has then been saved by the divine. And clearly, as I've learned very humbly over the last few weeks of my life, that there's a lot of tragedy and death that is unexplainable. And I recognize that the universe, when it's your time, it's your time. But for my guest, he still has more to create on this planet. He still has opportunities to mentor people, and he can do this merely through his bass playing, his singing, and his collaborations. George Porter Jr., welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
It's great to be back, Jake. Thanks for inviting me.
It's good to hear you, man, and thank you for being part of the book. The book should be in the mailbox soon. I really hope it brings a smile to your face. I think you're going to be loving life, and thank you for being a part of it. I just kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about, all you see of these freeze frame shots of downtown New Orleans right now. And I just wonder, and you do a lot of promotion, I'll see you walking around giving pep talks to people and talking about philosophy and life. What does a daily routine look like for George Porter in the age of the coronavirus?
7 a.m. My puppy wakes me up. Well, she's not a puppy now. She's 7 years old, little Vicky. She wakes me up at 7 a.m. in the morning for breakfast and to take a little walk. And usually by 7:30, I'm back in the bed and up around 10-ish. And, I'll just go back to say the last 10 days. It's just been mostly myself and my keyboard player and my Michael Limler and my guitarist Chris Atkins has been working in the studio, just recording some new music. I've been having a great time with that. I'm just staying home and working on the third floor in my studio.
So you guys are kind of almost self-quarantining together, or are you doing it in a virtual fashion?
No, we're doing it virtually. I guess you can consider that. We all have the program Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And through the Pro Tools have a cloud thing set up, a cloud studio thing set up, so where I can upload a song into the cloud and then invite Mike and Chris to it or whoever. And then we could work on a project. And we've been FaceTiming each other. So we I'll have my iPad set up with a FaceTime, and everybody's on screen on a thing when we can talk about it's not as much fun as if we were all sitting in the same room. But I mean, the fact that we're getting it done is actually we're well. And we've done 4 songs in the last 6 days, and pretty much almost to their completion.
Do you? It's so painful, normally I spent a lot of time on the road the last couple of years, doing a lot of, chronicling a lot of my musical heroes and in different amalgamations, and. Before this, what was the longest stint that you were not on the bandstand for?
Before this, it probably would have probably been Katrina, but Katrina didn't keep us off the stage.
Because you were long, right. Because that was also like a regional. That was like, I assume that you could have gone to an airport in Houston and flown to Japan with Kimok or done whatever, but you could have still played outside of New Orleans,
I could outside of New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans just was kind of shut down for that serious period of time, almost, let's say almost 6 months, 5 months, something like that.
When you were in rehab, did you play? Were you still able to perform at that time, or were you just kind of looking to straighten yourself out?
I was allowed to bring a guitar into the home that I was at. I think after the third week of my 6-week stay. I think I stayed 8 weeks. I stayed 8 weeks.
You did stay, yeah, 8 weeks.
Yeah, and I know the reason I said 6 is because some friends of mine who are recently going. Seems like the program now is only a 6-week program. But yeah, 3 weeks into my 8-week stay, I was allowed to. My wife was allowed to bring me my guitar, and so I played pretty much every day. Played the guitar just about every day.
I just wonder also, like, I live in Tucson, and, you know, I am trying to be as responsible as possible and protect my family and also people around me. But it hasn't gotten really real for me yet because I haven't lost anybody. And one cat that we've lost a lot of amazing people, and we've lost a lot of artists. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about. I'm not sure if you were. I don't think you were really. I know you didn't collaborate with him a lot, but you know he is really one of the. Coming from a family, one of the greatest families in musical history was Ellis Marsalis, and I just wanted you to talk a little bit about his legacy to New Orleans and to American music.
Well, I mean, Ellis, myself and Ellis family, my grandmother and I believe his grandmother were like second cousins or something like that. I don't remember if it was second or third cousins. So my mom told me about 20 years ago or something like that, you know, and she said, you know, the Marcelluses are kin to us, you know. I say, really? So that, I mean, that kind of made it if it was my grandmother and she was a third cousin, then that would kind of make me a sixth or seventh cousin to Ellis.
Amazing.
And an eighth or ninth cousin to the kids, you know. So, in most cultures, eighth or ninth cousins are marriageable.
that you know, in most cultures that is true, but that speaks to the. My gosh! And you just found out about that somewhat recently. That's insane.
Yeah, that was a funny story. But my mom brought that to my attention. Well, my mom and Ellis, I believe they shared some school time together. I'm not sure how it was. I know my mom went back to get. Ellis may have been either an instructor or someone at SUNO where she went to school and to get her degrees, and so I know they had spent time together and they knew each other, you know, and that was cool. But there's not many stories that I have except for the one story that the very first jazz festival that was considered called a jazz festival was when it was over by Armstrong Park next to the Municipal Auditorium, and the meters were playing outside, and after our set, Quint Davis came and grabbed me and said Ellis's bass player was late for the gig and wasn't going to get there in time for them to start, and he wanted me to go over to the auditorium and
fill in. Oh my God, man!
But Ellis's band, and there was like, sure, okay. I'm up for that. I mean, I didn't exactly know what I was going to get into, but it turned out to be I think a Lee Morgan song called Sidewinder, and which was pretty straight ahead as far as what was expected of the bass player. So and I think that was my only one time that I actually ever performed with Ellis. I think maybe we were on stage together again sometime later, probably like maybe 8 or 9 years ago. It was something maybe like an offbeat award show or something like that. It was a tribute thing that a bunch of musicians collaborated to do a tribute to somebody. I don't remember who it was, and I think Ellis ended up on stage with, I ended up on stage with him. I'm not sure exactly how that went.
I just wanted to read you this. It's so inspiring to hear you tell that story. There's a great bass player on the West Coast named the Skipper, Henry Franklin, and he said that Lee Morgan came out with the Sidewinder, which was completely different from anything anybody had done. It was putting the funk backbeat behind the jazz. Herbie Hancock did the same thing with Watermelon Man. Cannonball was also doing that too, and then everybody started doing that. So maybe they just felt like this wasn't like a free jazz piece or something. It was in your pocket, really, right? I mean, that's what the Sidewinder. Bob Cranshaw, that he was the bass player on that album, but it was putting the funk, behind the backbeat, which was unheard of at that time.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that was, the truth of the matter, that was my very first time ever hearing the song. I had never played it before, so it was...
that is so classic. What a classic story, man.
I've always credited myself for having a good set of ears.
I think your ears are you have the biggest ears in the world, maybe. Tell me a little bit about this. What does Lincoln Beach ring a bell to you?
Well, Lincoln Beach was, that was the beach that where all the black kids, back when we were all divided up and everything.
Segregated.
Segregated, that's that word. That word just kind of went away with my world.
No, you know what, I dig, but that's what it was. So yeah, it was a segregated beach, and continue on. And
so we used to go out. We used to have to catch like 3 buses to get all the way to that beach. It was out there, man. We saw a lot of music, man. A lot of music was played. A lot of the R&B, blues artists, local artists as much. I don't kind of remember seeing too many national blues acts out there. But but the Earl Kings and the Benny Spellmans, the Ernie Catos, and and some of the blues artists that was from the lower.
This is so. Since I last spoke to you on the radio, I interviewed Cyril Neville. He said that the Hawkettes was like an institution. Members changed, but the rhythmic content never changed. Art took over from Lil Millet, who got drafted. Art told me that he got drafted and someone wound up taking over for him. At this particular time, they had a place called Lincoln Beach. Everything was segregated, so our beach was way out in the boondocks. Like you said, it took 3 buses, which is now what they call East New Orleans. At one point, you could see Sam Cooke, Otis Redding, and the 5 Blind Boys of Alabama. They'd have a talent contest, and it got to the point where they wouldn't let the Hawkettes enter the contest anymore because nobody could beat them. A lot of the cats who were playing in that band wound up in Fats Domino's band. That was revelatory to me, to know that there was this. I mean, it wasn't a venue per se, but it was like a regional bastion of creative music, really. I mean, you were not really at the professional level. Where were you at in your career when you went down there? Were you in high school?
Well, I was probably younger than that. I kind of remember being out there in my early teens, but probably by the time I got to be 14 or 15 years old, I had turned my eyes towards playing, playing music. So I wasn't interested in the beach anymore, and I'm not sure how much longer that beach lasted. I don't really know when it went away. I don't remember when it went away. I should put it that way.
It would be interesting. Yeah, no, it's interesting because you just wonder when it did. Once those Chitlin circuits started, I bet it kind of went away. But it's just interesting that George. I want to just go back to Ellis for a minute. Were you aware of the AFO label, Harold Batiste, All for One? That they were doing some of the most progressive post-bop music I've ever heard. James Black, Ed Blackwell, all the Batistes, and Ellis. And I know you were definitely marinating with Alan Toussaint, but were you hip to the AFO label at all?
I was aware of those guys, and I mean Chuck Beatty was a really good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I love Chuck. I need to check on him. I haven't talked to him.
Well, you better call him right after this interview.
Yeah, I think so because
you better.
Yeah, because that is he was always a wonderful friend. I was about 15 years old I was always tall. And I used to have my James Brown do, I had a big high.
I love it, yeah, baby.
And so I used to get in these clubs, these nightclubs, and I remember going to Mason's Motel, Mason's Americana, I believe it was called, and it was like a Mason strip on Claiborne Avenue, right above Martin Luther King. Well, actually, it was between Washington Avenue. Or was that Jackson? Jackson is between Jackson and Washington. Right off the corner of Jackson Avenue and Claiborne. And he had three clubs there. I remember when you started out with one. It was just one was a hotel, restaurant, and a bar in the back. And the bar probably would hold about 50 people at the most. It couldn't hold more than 50 people. And they would have some wonderful musical icons playing there. Ed Frank on piano, Chuck Beatty on bass guitar, and the drummer. Who was the drummer?
John Boudreaux?
No, John had left New Orleans by then.
He was already gone by that point. Holy cow! I didn't know he left that early.
I'm trying to think. And Red Tyler was on saxophone.
Wow.
I can't remember who the drummer was.
This is unbelievable.
But I remember just watching Chuck play, and I one night I got to finish her performance doing the set, and I asked Chuck, can I play a blues with the band, and I wanted to take my shot at swinging on an upright. I had never played on one. And Chuck said, well, you know what you're doing? I said, no, but I'd like to try.
Go on up, man.
Go ahead on. I wish I would remember who that doggone drummer was.
It'll come to you later. Just text me when it'll pop into your head later tonight or something. Just text me.
He was very kind to me because they didn't play a tempo that was like outlandish a tempo. They played a really moderate, nice with walking.
Sure. Yeah.
And I hung in the key of F, so I knew I had to hug the top of that neck really well, and I played pretty good, And Ed Frank said, "You want a solo?" I said, "Oh no!"
Oh my God, dude! You see, because you said your armature, you said you could never really play the upright bass, but now we know the first time you did play the upright bass was a major success. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was I would consider it a major success. I mean, my amateur was definitely not correct.
Well, no, let's put it this way:
I
you
was,
got through it. You got through it, and nobody
yeah,
kicked you off the bandstand.
I was sliding my way around. That's when those big ears came in handy.
Oh man, was it just like a blues groove, or was it a standard, or do you remember the tune?
It was I couldn't tell you the name of the song or what it was, but it was pretty a 12-bar blues, a straight up 12-bar blues. Things that wasn't it wasn't no big long, no hard tempo. It was a real moderate, nice moving tempo. It was good. It was a blues.
I just also want to be clear with the Sidewinder. When Marsalis called you up from the bullpen, you were playing electric, not upright. Is that right?
I was playing electric, correct. Well, the bass player that was going to play that gig that day also was going to be playing electric. The Julius Foreman was the bass player who was coming in to play that gig.
Interesting, because actually, on the record, Lee Morgan record, I believe Cranshaw's playing upright, but I think
he's playing upright on the record. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then, so I'll remind you later, but we got to get that drummer's name. We got to think of that drummer from the gig you had where you played the blues on upright. But we'll get to that later. So yeah, we have George, a game on this program called Name That Voice. I'm going to put this in for you right now, and we'll come back and break it down.
Well, one of the things about being in Angola was while I was there, James Black shows up.
Really?
And there was a band. There was some, I was busted for 2 joints. There were lots of musicians being busted for possession of narcotics, narcotic paraphernalia and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that's how James Black came in possession of narcotics. James Booker was there, and he got out not too long after I got there.
Oh my gosh!
And there were cats, like the guys in the band were like, really great. There was the prison was segregated then. Everything was still segregated when I went in there. Yeah. Not only in the prison but everywhere in the South. So there were the white musicians and there were black musicians. And the majority of the white, there were a couple of white bands, but the white bands played country western and Cajun music. And with the black bands, we had one black band that was rhythm and blues funk band, and we had the jazz band.
This is unbelievable.
And one white trumpet player from New York who had the misfortune to get busted in Louisiana.
Yep.
Was a bebop player, so he didn't want to play with the white bands.
Was it Chet Baker?
No. It was a guy named Russell Sweet.
Okay, so he didn't want to play the country western Cajun stuff. He wanted to hang.
Right, he wanted to play with the cats playing jazz.
But
that was against the law. So if he got caught playing with us, he'd go to the dungeon.
It was a law within the prison that you couldn't.
No, that was a law. From what I understand, in New Orleans, it was against the law for black and white musicians to play together.
This is not. I mean, whether it was in a pub or a social anywhere.
Well, they weren't even supposed to be in the same place together.
Oh, so, but he was busted. He was busted there for drugs, or he was busted because he played.
Yeah, drugs. There was some kind of drug charge.
Okay, so then he came to jail and he was playing with the cats, and then he got busted again.
Well, he would play with the cats when we could sneak him in, and have him play, allow him to play a few tunes with us, and here come the man, you better get out of here.
I dig. Oh my God. Mr. Porter, you want to take a guess at who that is?
Charles Neville.
Bang, 1 for 1. George Porter hitting a double to the gap. That was the late, great Charlie Neville. And I'm trying to figure out, George, you told me the classic story about you guys pulling over on the side of the road at about 3 a.m, the meters crashing out for the night, and then the cop comes over and he didn't believe you, and he had Art sing Chaduki Do, and then he let you guys go. But I mean, Angola, Gil Scott Heron wrote a song about that because of a woman whose son was put there unjustly and accused of something he never did. Charlie Neville was there, James Black was there, James Booker was there, and for pretty petty things. And I just wonder, did you ever have to face? I mean, you know, Butch Trucks would talk about getting pulled over in Alabama, and JMO would go to the segregated part of the jail, and the rest of the Allmans went to the white part of the jail. But how did you avoid Angola and or incarceration in a segregated and deeply bigoted Louisiana?
Well, the one time that I actually had to deal with the jail system, you know, my mom being a lady of not necessarily means, but she had you know, my mom worked for Lindy Boggs, and well before
who was that, by the way? I don't know who that is.
Well, Lindy Boggs was well, I believe, and she was in the Senate until she passed away. But she won her husband's seat from in the Senate. So my mom had a tie to that family, and they kind of was instrumental in getting me a really good lawyer. That was my first offense. And they, you know, I had a decent lawyer that got me parole, and I was hated for Angola, but I got paroled, and I never ever bent that law in that situation again.
It was like a possession possession of marijuana kind of thing, or
would have been my second attempt to go to jail. Was the morning that I actually went home and was losing my mind because I almost actually got caught by the police. You know, driving with no driver's license, drinking. I had a fifth of vodka in the car and snorting cocaine, and you know, but the police missed me. Because they were looking at there was a beautiful lady in a convertible, so you know it was a three-lane street. It was down there on it was Franklin Avenue. Is that Franklin or Frenchman? Franklin Avenue, in the upper Ninth Ward, and we were headed towards downtown New Orleans. You know, we're heading towards the river.
Sure.
And I had just come from back in the neighborhood of UNO, get me a fresh bag of cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was snorting the cocaine and driving, and this lady pulls up. It wasn't a girl, she was a woman. And the police car pulled up in the middle lane next to me, between the two of us. And I saw the police car out the corner of my eye. I had the spoon of cocaine up to my nose, and the policeman was screwing around with the lady.
Oh my God!
They did not pick. If they'd have looked to the left, I would have been in Angola. I was no way that I was going to miss being in Angola. I was Angola bound.
So I just want to be clear. The first time was not. This was the second time that, and you never. I mean, the guy was just totally distracted by this woman, so you pulled out and left. But the first time was just sort of just like some sort of like, I don't know. Like low level offense that they just got you on parole. The
first time would have been considered a low level offense, but you know, black men in the middle '60s were going to Angola for no level defense. I mean,
Exactly.
offensive.
No,
You know,
that's exactly.
It didn't mean what you did. You know, they just were sending you up to Angola because they needed people to work on farms up there.
That's
you know,
right.
You know, the prison management was running cheap labor.
Were they? I mean, is it? God, that's mind blowing to me because I've only been knowing about the horrible conditions inside the jail. I don't know if I'll send you the tune, the Gil Scott-Heron tune. He wrote a song about. I mean, they had no ventilating system, they had no air conditioning. But you're saying that they cheap labor? Did the guys actually get paid to do the farm work?
No. I mean, you might have got a little something added to your meal or something like that. I mean, and the truth of the matter, I can't really answer
Exactly. Yeah.
whether you got paid on that because I didn't get to go there.
Thank God.
I mean, I went
Thank
to
God.
Angola one time.
Yeah.
I went to Angola one time with a band to perform. You know, and it was funny because there were about 6 or 7 guys in there that knew my name, knew me from the neighborhood, you know, and I said, "Hey, Porter, hey, what's up, dog?" You know?
Screaming out, yep.
You know, so I was like very pleased that I didn't make that trip.
I was going to say, yeah, no, I mean, and thank God for, you know, women are divine creatures in so many ways, and it's very spiritual, and thank God that one woman was completely distracted, that policeman, that he didn't look over to you, because God, I can't even think about, you would have been gone for a long time. Did you, Eddie Palmieri was a great Latin salsa pianist, still with us, and he was the first cat to go, and there were recorded concerts from Sing Sing. He did the whole prison circuit, upstate New York, Northeast tour. Did you, knowing that there was such prejudice and such injustice going on, I mean, Charlie went to Angola for 2 joints, and I think he got sentenced to 5 years, and I think he stayed for half that time. And he was still on junk. Mm-hmm. He was still on junk, and he had to work that out of his system. The hook was still in him, even though he was sober for that time. But even so, did the Meters ever do anything like a touring circuit of prisons or anything along those lines, just because of the depravity that continues to? I mean, Jay-Z just filed a lawsuit about the conditions in a prison in Mississippi, you know, and the people there's like 9 people that died there, not from coronavirus, just from conditions. I mean, it's still going on today. Did you guys do any kind of band activism in that sense?
No, the Meters one time, you know, well, I think it was once or twice a year, Angola would, you know, and the governor would send, you know, like a little touring, you know, maybe 4 or 5 groups to go up to Angola and play a concert for the different, you know, for the different for the black community up there and also the white community. The Meters was scheduled to go and do one of those, and the band made it there. I didn't because you know, so you know, and you know, I was in the back sleeping. Me and I guess, and the people that was woke in the vehicle just obviously didn't know where the hell they was going. There wasn't no GPS back then.
No.
So you know, the guy ended up on one of those little roads that we ended up in Texas somewhere, you know.
Oh my gosh! Wait a minute. Oh, I just want to be clear. Where was the concert was in Louisiana?
The concert would have been in Angola. Like I said, I had done it once before with a group of ladies called the Piston Sisters. Amnesty Miller was a keyboard player and arranger, and I did that show with those. There was 3 girls, and they were kind of doing the Boswell and the Boswell Sisters material.
Sure.
And so they were on that show, and I played with them that at one time up there, and they were, they went up there, in their usual outfits that they usually like to wear, and the prison people wouldn't let them perform with those outfits on because they said, "No, you're gonna start a riot."
Yeah, the guys are gonna lose their minds. I mean, my
put
God!
your jeans back on.
So then and then the cats that were taking you to this other festival, you were passed out in the back seat, and then they just wound up on some lonely road to Texas.
Yep. And we ended up on one of the little side roads that would have taken, I would assume that they were supposed to take a left when they didn't, and they took a right, and we ended up, we ended up in Texas, or right outside of Texas.
And as far as you know, the band just didn't play. They didn't try to make it.
I don't know if they played or not. There were other bass players on there. So all we was gonna get to play was like 15, 20 minutes anyway. So I would have think that they'd have got somebody to play bass on that. I don't remember much about exactly how it went down.
I'm also curious, like, just in your passings with Art, he called you like the most terrible guitar player he'd ever heard, and then he came back and said he wanted you to play bass in his band. But I was thinking that, if you made a right instead of a left, got lost, was he capable of not just left-hand bass, but actually kicking pedals?
Oh, no. He would have never done that.
He would never have attempted that. Okay.
No.
It's good to know.
His left hand was busy enough, but he I wouldn't think that he would do a gig as a meter gig without me being on bass or somebody being on bass. I don't think he would attempt to be the bass player in a trio meter band. No.
I dig. He needed that thumping bass. He needed, and in general, there was just a lot of things at one time where it was like just organ and drums, where it just was kind of standard for organ players to kick pedals, and then that, maybe he didn't even have the chops to do that, So it just
Yeah. It was back in there. We used to call them sticks and fingers.
So yeah, one more. I got another name that voice for George Porter Jr. And then we'll break it down.
I don't know if you follow baseball, but do you know who C.C. Sabathia is?
He just checked into AA. Yeah.
Yeah, and it couldn't have been at a worse time for his team.
I know.
But that's kind of what it was for me. I had all these things lined up with Philip Catherine to a good agent, and we had a lot of money, and it was on the table. But that's when I reached the bottom. They call it the bottom in alcohol abuse and drug abuse. That's when I reached my bottom, and I finally made the decision on my own. I had to go away. I had gone away 4 previous times, but I really never understood what it was, how to get sober. And then this 5th time, it was really bad, and nothing else was more important. I was afraid I was going to die if I didn't get straight.
I know. Yeah, right. No, this is.
So I went in 34 years ago last month, and I stuck it out, and I stayed low and didn't really do anything except focus on understanding how to get sober, and that's what happened with me. And the spirituality that branches out into things related to what Coltrane had inspired us to do by his example in the 60s, that came later for me.
Can you talk about how... I don't expect you to know who that is. You want to take a guess?
I was thinking that was Dr. Jones' partner, but I can't remember his name.
Prince Lasha, or what? No, I don't know who that. That was.
Lala.
Yeah.
Lala.
Lala. Yeah. No, this was. This is a guy you probably I'm not sure if you ever met him, but you knew him, is the late, great Larry Coryell.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. No, I never met him.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason that you guys were like sort of in different orbits to a degree, but I mean, this is a guy who was, like he said, went to rehab 4 previous times, didn't understand it, was nearing, could feel that he was dying, and then checked in the 5th time. In fact, at Bill Evans's funeral, I forget who told him, they said, Larry, you shouldn't even smoke a joint or a cigarette. You have that kind of addictive personality that's dangerous. But, he came out of it. He did leave us a couple years ago. But, George, we've already vetted, your dad. You went into rehab, and, your dad was, coming, and you guys were making amends and growing and trying to cultivate your relationship. And then he passed away when you left, and I just want you to talk right now in this time because, you're in demand and, you're kind of able to pick and choose. You have your own band, and then, Kim Ock will call you go to Japan, or you play with Johnny V, whatever. You just play in normal times. You're just out there, and the music is that release, and you can continue to stay on the righteous path. And I'm more to the point of, I guess I just want you to talk to cats out there who are quarantining. I mean, they're trying to do the best they can. There is no end in sight at this point. And I'd like you to talk through your own experience, how people can persevere through this time, especially musicians, mainly musicians.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure exactly if I understand the question. I think you kind of asked 2 questions there.
I did because I guess my question is there, have you felt, not that you've relapsed, but is there something there that is still gnawing at you because of the downtime? How have you stayed on the righteous path? And if that's the case, what is your advice to musicians who are really struggling in this time because they don't have the outlet of music to express themselves and might be turning towards a darker side?
Oh, okay, I got you. No, in my situation, in my case, and just me, and this is just me, because I believe every junkie has his own trigger, the thing that triggers his desire to jump back into stupidness. My trigger now is almost non-existent because I'm very close. I get lost, or I get confused on how many years it is, but I think I'm very close to 31 years now.
Wow.
Of being sober, and it's actually the things that the loneliness that I felt about being isolated from the music and the musicians that I loved and needed. So I thought I needed so dearly, being the members of the Meters. That I don't have that problem anymore because I've moved past that. I've moved so far past the need for their approval. I think might be the best word. Approval.
Right.
That that's not a trigger anymore. Release. Playing. I can go. I don't have to do that, but I can. When I get home after off a tour or something, I don't touch my instrument until I need to play again.
I figured. Yeah, I love that. But I mean, it's just ingrained in you. So it's not a release, and that's really amazingly. Most people probably would not expect that, but that's pretty revelatory.
Yeah, because the idea is, the whole idea of being a junkie and not being a junkie is that not needing or wanting to have something that you gotta have that you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe again, it's just me. I believe that when I lost my wife of almost 51 years, we were 1 month and 1 day away from our 51st wedding anniversary. If I was gonna fall off the wagon, that would have been it. Because she had been my friend for almost 51 years, and I always thought that I was living because she was alive, because it was I was living because of her. So when she passed away, it was I sat down that evening. I left the hospital. My daughter and her brother and my granddaughter and all of them was at the hospital, and I left. And I came home and sit in this house, where, in fact, sitting in the same exact spot I'm sitting in right now, and said that, something, bro, I have to keep on living. I just need to keep on living. I said, for her 2.5 years of fighting with that pancreatic cancer, I sat with her for all of that, most of that. Pretty much the last year of it, I wouldn't even tour. I was staying home. I stayed close to home. I would not go out for, weekends at a time, one-offs or something like that. And she would try to tell me that you go out and work. You got to go do what you got to do. You lose your mind up in here not playing, but I was already losing my mind because I saw her melting away, and she was my friend, man. She was.
I dig, man.
She
was
was
your soulmate, man. She was a soulmate.
And
you know what it is? What do
you do? I'm trying to finish your question.
Sure.
How do a recovering addict get past this point?
Well, and listen, let me just be clear. Yeah, for somebody like yourself, like you said, if it was going to happen, it would have happened after your wife passed, and that would have been the trigger. But you got past that Rubicon, and now you're really actually much farther down the path. And I just think that in this time, when people are really, if they're trying to, there's nowhere to go anyway, but for people that have just been sober, have just become sober for a few months, and they are feeling triggered because they can't, for lack of a better word, make love with their peers on the bandstand and get stuff out of their system, and they're craving it. What are some things they can do to break that Jones?
Playing your act, man, playing your instrument. I believe that. Well, I've been seeing a lot of players. They're doing these Zoom concerts and
sure.
Facebook concerts, and everybody and their grandmother are doing it right now. And I think that's great. I've been thinking about it. I haven't done it yet, but I've been thinking about it, and I just agreed to do a song for Robert Hunter, but it's just me solo and me, my bass, and I'm gonna sing. And
I'm sorry, you cut out there. What, it was a Robert Hunter tune you said?
Yes, Robert Hunter and Jerry Garcia tribute that's happening, I believe, Saturday.
Wow.
And I got a call from Eric Krasno about me performing the song Sugaree. And so I haven't never done it before, playing Sugaree.
Man, I'm going to cry right now, man. That's so cool, man.
So, I'm gonna do that, and hopefully In fact, I did a test run earlier today, and just to see how it came off. And I looked at it. I listened at the playback, and it looked pretty good. I mean, it looked really good. It looks really good, and the sound wasn't bad. See, I was just more concerned about the sound on the audio, the sonic version of those internet recordings. Those internet live performances. Some of the stuff sounds real thin.
No, like George, you're bringing up. I just want to be. I don't know what interface or if it's Zoom or not, but I can just tell you we tried to get some brothers together last Friday to do a Zoom concert, and the sound was tinny and thin. It sounded like you were, if it was going on at the Sanger Art Center, it sounded like you were 5 blocks away in the middle of a concrete building. So that would be something that I would say, because the video quality is great, and if you were just doing if you like when you talk to your bandmates about a song, you can have conversation. But I do think the music is thin. That being said, you just basically said you gave the perfect antidote for people that are struggling with staying on the righteous path is do something that you've never done before. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. Take a chance and keep your mind active on that. Give yourself a challenge. Here's George Porter Jr. You've played with Dead & Company. You've played with Seven Walkers. You know some of the catalog. You've never played Sugar Ray, but you're going to give it a go. And that's what I love.
No, I've played Sugar Ray hundreds of times, but I've never played it with just me and my bass.
That's what I'm saying. And you are out there naked on an island. I mean, literally. I mean, that to me is... I mean, no matter what, that's inspiring. And I think that's the kind of things that I just, like you said, everyone has their own journey to sobriety. But I am really worried, man, about a lot of my friends because, especially the road dogs, because they don't make a lot of money to begin with on the road, but it is a lifeline towards accessing your multidimensional self, making a little bit of money to bring home to your family, and most importantly, having fun with the cats on the bandstand. And I am deeply concerned about a lot of my friends, not just how they're going to make a living, but staying mentally focused because, I mean, it's a very, and I just look at retail and I look at bars and clubs and sports, and it seems like those are the things that are the last that are going to come back around,
Yeah, but and I'm scared about that too, because here recently some of the clubs up on the north, say from Colorado all the way to the New York area, has joined some kind of what do you call it, a conglomerate.
Yeah, they formed a partnership or a conglomerate. Yeah.
And I'm thinking that man, you might have played a gig in Denver at a club for one price, and you went 5 cities over and played the next night in a different place for a different price. But now these guys are going to be talking to each other. And it's a good chance that your income is going to kind of remain the same across the board, and that I'm not liking that idea at all. But
no, I know what you're saying. It's and I think that's an interesting point. You have a completely standard or flat rate. It's almost like going into the studio. You get a flat rate for the studio gig, and now like some live gigs at Cervantes or in Denver or places that maybe traditionally pay more than a place maybe in St. Louis. Now it's all going to be formula, just straight across the, and then the other question is how many. I mean, because of the fact that they're putting out these bills that quote unquote are supposed to save small business. and they're being gobbled up by, Ruth Chris Steakhouse and places like that, how many of these
Really, I was really surprised about that. I really, I was really.
You were surprised by that? Maybe I'm just like demoralized. I'm just not. I'm too cynical with this cat, man. It's corruption 101.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that, man. That Ruth Chris Steakhouse. I mean, what they got $20 million or something like that?
It's called cronyism. It's called yeah.
Man, when did Ruth Chris Steakhouse become a small business?
That's what, dude. It's just symptomatic of the insanity, and the question is, all those great venues that you love to hit, all those sweet spots. The question is, how many of them can really survive if the money's not going to go to them? Those clubs that you play at. I mean, all these guys, the circuit that I love, the touring circuit that's there. I just don't know how many of these clubs are going to survive. I mean, if the money's not going to go to them, then I really fear about the culture, because my God, it's fine. At least you're getting paid for a gig. But if you don't have a place, to play, then what? And the same thing goes for New Orleans. I mean, that's the other part of it. I mean, I've been there 3 times in the last 2 years, and I just say to myself, my gosh, just a small little, sidebar and snug and.
Well, we lost one club already. DBA is just gone.
Gone.
History.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, is that because Trump will force the country open in 6 or 8 weeks, and even if you look at Wuhan right now in China, they're open, but they're not really back to anywhere close to full strength. I mean, it would be like, chopping off a few of your fingers and saying, here, George, play the bass. I mean, the economy is not going to be coming back the way it was to begin with. So it's perspective, and it's also being able to, I don't know what it is, George, but I just know that it's an unprecedented time. But I will say, seeing your face, giving the pep talks, taking the dog for a walk, doing sugary by yourself, man, you're an inspiration to so many people, and your life story is the real deal. And I know that, I can't say I know, but I hope that we will get through this sooner than later. It pains me to know that the things that are most important for a culture and for a society to survive are the last things that are going to come back, and are the last things that are being prioritized by our government. And that really, really makes me upset.
I hear you. Well, Jake, I have to run because I'm.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, you've been buzzing. No, man, great hang, man. Great to hear you. And let me know when you get the book.
Sounds great. Will do.
Be cool, George.
Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful day.
Bless you, brother. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Part 3 with George Porter Jr. Going back home. We'll see you later. This is the Jake Feinberg Show.
I know it's